Hi, everyone, and welcome to OT Echo. My name is Kate Barlow, and I am the founder and host of this program. Today, we have Jenny Negrey, who's going to be talking to us about Every Moment Counts, and it is December 14th, 2023. Thank you so much for joining us. Jenny, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Oh, hold on. Sorry, there we go. Okay. So I am an occupational therapist. I have been an OT for about 16 years now. The majority of my experience is all in pediatrics. I am board certified in pediatrics as well. I am an alum of Cleveland State's OT program, and I had the honor while I was there as having Dr. Sue Basic as one of my professors, and throughout my career, she's continued to be a great mentor to me. So I have continued working with her on her initiative called Every Moment Counts for several years now. So we're going to talk a little bit today about Every Moment Counts in general, and then more specifically about one of the programs offered within that initiative, which is called the Comfortable Cafeteria. And I had the pleasure of running that program actually at my son's school as a parent volunteer. 2 times I did that. And then ironically now I work for the district, but I did not at the time. So my experience with the program has been through running it as a volunteer. So if you have any questions throughout and you want to send me, keep in touch with me, send me a question or anything, you can go ahead and send me an email here. I've included that. And that first letter is a J. I know that's a little bit hard to see with the underline there. But I want to just thank everybody for having me today. I'm happy to be here. This is just such an exciting project that you guys have. So as I mentioned before, Every Moment Counts is a mental health promotion initiative that was started by Sue Basic. It was originally grant funded through the Ohio Department of Education. I should have said that. I'm in Ohio. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, our little suburb of Cleveland. But so the project originally was grant funded through the Ohio Department of Education and the Office of Exceptional Children. And it started out in 2012. I wasn't involved in the first year. I think I came in like 2013 or 14, the second year, third year. But they've done a ton of exciting things. And I'll just go over briefly about Every Moment Counts. So it's a multi-pronged mental health promotion initiative. And the goals of that initiative are to build capacity, so of all school personnel, so not just OTs, and using like a tiered approach to mental health services, so tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. The second goal is to embed strategies and programs focusing on mental health promotion and prevention. And then the third goal is to disseminate materials broadly using the website, publications, and presentations. So I think, yes, I mentioned it here on this slide. The website, if you go to this website, anything that you could possibly need to run one of the programs can be found on the website for free. So if you go on there and enter your information, you can get signed up for updates. But everything is on there. So say you're interested in learning more about maybe a different program that we're not going to talk about today, you can go to the website and look into it. All of the like handouts or materials that you would need to run the program are all there for free. So it's really, Sue likes to call it like a living book, but everything that you could possibly need is there available to you. So a little bit more about Every Moment Counts. The guiding framework is a public health approach to mental health. So as I talked about before with those 3 different tiers, tier 1 would be mental health promotion. So learning how to become mentally healthy. Research shows that positive psychology, mental health literacy, and mental health promotion, they use strength-based approaches. So tier 1 would be like everybody in the school building, not just specific groups or a specific student. You would be running a program for everybody. So in the United States, I don't know how services are where everybody is, but in the United States, like a lot of times OTs in the schools are only working with kids that they might have on their caseload. And this would be a little bit of a different approach where we're doing a program with the whole building. Tier 2 would be mental health prevention. So reduction of mental health challenges in those that are at risk. So maybe a small group intervention, like a lunch bunch, or maybe doing some after school programs with kids. And then tier 3 would obviously be more intensive or individualized services to diminish the symptoms and promote positive mental health. So kids who are already identified as having a need in this area. So the emphasis of Every Moment Counts is mental health promotion and prevention, inclusion of students, integrating related services in the natural school and community contexts, and also collaboration among all school personnel. And I say school a lot, but I do find, like, I have a strong background in outpatient pediatrics as well. And I've used a lot of the things on this website in my outpatient practice as well. So I don't want to necessarily say that this is only good for people who are working in schools. I think a lot of this information could be applicable to many different settings. So really what we want to do is reframe mental health as a positive state of functioning rather than hearing the words mental health and just thinking mental illness. So some characteristics of positive mental health. There's positive affect or emotional state, feeling good emotionally, positive psychological and social function, so enjoying fulfilling relationships, having friends, doing well functionally in daily activities, so classroom, meal times, leisure, and then being able to cope with life stressors and challenges. So that ability to stay regulated, cope with everyday challenges, those kinds of things. And then just a few more things about the guiding philosophy of EMC. So small moments make big differences in how children feel and function in school, their homes, and the community. All children and youth have a right to participate in and enjoy their day from start to finish. Enjoyable experiences throughout the day promote feelings of emotional well-being. And addressing mental health does not necessarily involve doing more, but doing things differently. So they talk a lot about embedding strategies. This is just, Sue Basic had made this graphic. Her daughter is actually in graphic design, and she helped her design this, but I think it's a really great visual of what all OTs can encompass. And I know you guys are OTs, so you're probably very familiar with this already, but I think it's a great visual there. If you do want the graphic, there is a link to that if you want to share it with anybody. So these are the programs that are currently offered through Every Moment Counts. And like I said, they're all on the website. So today we're going to be talking about the Comfortable Cafeteria, but there's also a program called Refreshing Recess, which is also a program that's implemented in school settings. There's the Family Mental Health Toolkit. There's the Calm Moments cards. So that's, there's a lot of different specific cards made for specific situations that kids might go through, like maybe like a fire drill at school, or like test taking anxiety. There's a whole bunch of them, and you can print them out, and they're really pretty, and they have different strategies that you can try. There's an initiative called Making Leisure Matter, which is another one that I've been really involved with, that talks about the importance of leisure and how really it's OT's role to be in there and making sure that our students have meaningful leisure opportunities in their lives. And then there's also information on embedded strategies and integrated services on the website as well. So today our focus is going to be on the Comfortable Cafeteria program. And please, if you have questions at any point throughout this, jump in and ask. But I'm going to try and give you an overview of what the program's focus is, how it breaks it down into the different lessons each week, how different people have kind of modified it a little bit for different situations. So it's designed to be a tier 1 strategy, but some people have done it in like small group sessions to do tier 2, or how you can get students involved in things. And everybody, I know, if you're in a school setting, wherever you're at, mealtime probably looks very different for a lot of you guys than it does for the schools that I'm in on a daily basis. So I'm really interested to hear what it looks like for you guys. And towards the end, if we can kind of talk about how you see this program, like maybe you see a need in your setting and how you would see it implemented where you're at. So I'm really interested to hear that feedback. So why should we be offering services during lunchtime? So meal times and social participation are a part of our scope of practice, number one. It's the least restrictive environment. So in the United States, in like our schools, special education legislation, they talk a lot about the least restrictive environment. That means basically you want to be servicing these kids in the most natural context as possible. You don't want to always be pulling them out of academics and doing one-on-one therapy. Like as much as you can integrate into their natural setting, the better. And then we also have another legislative act called the Every Student Succeeds Act. And in that act, they label CISPs, and now I'm gonna forget what that stands for. It's school instruction support personnel, maybe. But anyway, it identifies OTs as a CISP, which means that we can provide some of those mental health services in the school setting. So we should be doing more at a tier 1 and a tier 2 level, not just the kids that are identified as having a disability. So there's been a heightened attention to health with the whole school, whole community, whole child framework. And then an increased awareness of the relationship between health and educational success. And there's some information for you here. I won't read all of that. So I don't know what school lunchrooms look like for all of you, but sometimes here they can be a little chaotic. They can be really loud. I've been in buildings where there's staff that are making children eat in complete silence, and they'll turn off the lights and nobody's allowed to talk. I've seen staff with like megaphones screaming at kids. So there's like a wide gamut of what it can look like. But basically, sometimes people are in these positions and they really haven't been provided the education and the support they need to do their jobs. And it can be a really chaotic setting. There's tons of kids in this room, food's flying, kids are screaming, somebody's crying, it can be very overwhelming. So what our goal is to help provide the education and the tools that the staff need in order to help it be a more positive environment. So promoting positive behavior and prevent bullying, helping them be active supervisors, not just standing in the corner and yelling, but really getting involved and interactive, helping them foster positive social interactions throughout the lunchtime, friendships, appropriate conversations, and all of those things. So the students are not the ones kind of that have a say in what their cafeteria looks like. And sometimes it doesn't, lunchtime is not always a positive experience for all of our students. So this program was developed by Fran Horvath, Louise Demirjian, and Sue Basic, who are all OTs in the Cleveland area here. And then they also had some help with developing the program by an OT student at the time. So they developed it in the spring of 2013, and then they had multi-site replication in 2013 through 2015. They also did do some research, and I believe that you can find that on the website. Oh, and like I said, so this program is geared towards K through 4th grade, but like I said, that they've done like modifications and things in the past. They did come up with materials for like a middle school age range, and that's called the Cool Cafe. And that's also on the website. So this is like the welcome poster. So schools they'll print this off and hang it up so that kids can be aware like of what the program is, when it's starting, and all the things that are kind of encompassed in the program. So it is, like I said before, a tier 1 universal program for all students. You can embed tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 strategies. Like if you know that there's specific kids that might be having a hard time in the cafeteria already, you can, pay special attention to those children. But kids who might struggle in the cafeteria or at recess, it's really like so many of our kids. It could be kids with oral motor or feeding challenges, picky eaters, kids with eating disorders, kids who are introverted or, have difficulty with social challenges, anybody on the autism spectrum or with ADHD, anyone with anxiety or depression, physical disabilities, sensory processing challenges. Like I mentioned earlier, it can be a very overwhelming environment. Children who are being bullied often have a hard time in the lunchroom. So many kids could potentially have a hard time in this setting. So when you see a need for this program, you want to encourage implementation by all of your relevant stakeholders. So that's like anybody in your building that might be a good, ally on your side here. So it might be the OT team, speech therapists, maybe your PTs, guidance counselors, teachers, maybe special education staff, paraprofessionals, school psychologists, maybe, anybody in your building that you think might be invested in seeing positive changes in the cafeteria. We've also seen a lot, like building administrators can really get on board with this, because a lot of times that's where a lot of their like behavior problems come, is in the cafeteria setting. So they've seen a good decrease in negative behaviors by doing a program like this. So that's kind of an incentive to them as well. So what is the program involved? It's a 6-week program. It's usually done 1 day a week, and it's integrated into the cafeteria setting. The refreshing recess one is integrated into the recess setting. So you would probably need at least 2 people to run this, unless you had like a very small setting. So our cafeterias here, like I'm just thinking of the buildings that I'm in, there's usually a few hundred kids in a grade. So there could be anywhere between like a couple hundred kids in a lunchroom at a time. So that's a lot of kids. So definitely like more of a 2-person job than a 1-person job. If the more the better too. If you have parent volunteers, lunchroom helpers too, that's great. So the facilitator's role is to educate supervisors, school administrators, and students about best practices for the cafeteria and what our program is going to entail. They also model weekly activities and positive social interaction, and then they serve as a coach and a problem solver with the supervisors. So talking about any challenges they might have and kind of problem solving to see how they might be able to help that. A lot of times our students with more significant disabilities don't go to the cafeteria. So I've worked with staff to help come up with strategies of figuring out like, okay, they're currently eating in their classroom by themselves. Like, what are the barriers to them being in the lunchroom? How can we make this a successful setting for them? So kind of looking at all of those current barriers and figuring out some solutions. So each week has a different theme. Week 1 is the kickoff. It's like the orientation week. Week 2 is called fostering friendships, and we'll go into each one of these in more detail. Week 3 is mealtime conversations. Week 4 is let's include everyone. Week 5 is understanding the sensations in the cafeteria. And week 6 is healthy food choices. And you can switch some of these around too. If you feel like it makes more sense in your setting to do 1 week before a different week, like I did, because of our special guest, you'll see later, but I flip-flopped 2 of the weeks, and it just made more sense for us. So you can certainly make your own modifications to help it fit your setting. Okay, so like I said, if you go to the website and you click on Comfortable Cafeteria, all of these sections are there. So you can see the introduction, about the program, 10 steps to success, just do it. And then all the lesson plans are there for each week. Like I mentioned earlier, there's that cool cafe for middle school students. All the information for that program is there if you wanted to run it with an older group. And then, as I mentioned earlier about the research, you can get that information there as well. So the 10 steps to success for the Comfortable Cafeteria is knowing your stuff, observing lunchtime. So it's important to go in and kind of take stock of what's going on before you decide to come in and run the program, see what's really going on there, meet the stakeholders, develop an action plan, obtain your principal support or your building administrator, kind of sell the program on, like I said, why this would benefit them. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of times them hearing that, this might help with cut down on behaviors in the cafeteria, that's like all they need to hear. And then kick off the program, orientation to the supervisors, just do it, and then reinforce the message, and then do it again, share success stories. So you can run it, you could run it every year if you wanted to. I think like a lot of our buildings here are designed by grade. So like if you ran it in like a first through third grade building, you could run it, once every 3 years or so, so that you're getting every group of kids. So everybody can kind of look at that and see what makes sense for where they're at. So they have some things on here. I won't read all of this, but there's forms on there, like if you want to share them with building administrators for information about the program, what it is, maybe you want to get the school social worker on board, you can give them handouts, talk to them. And then there is a nice form on there for a cafeteria environmental analysis, which is nice because you can go in and kind of sit with this form. And as OTs, like we really have that great task analysis and like ability to break down things when we're looking at a whole picture. So sometimes, you might hear complaints about how loud the cafeteria is, or behaviors that are going on or whatever. And you might be able to go in with this form and see certain things that are obstacles, like maybe a cafeteria only has one trash can and it's at like the very front of the room. So everybody's constantly getting up and going to walk to the trash can, and kids are like, bumping each other on the way, or maybe they're like engaging in negative talk on the way around. So, just looking at things like that, like, hey, could we have 5 trash cans placed, here? And then every table has one in the middle of their row, and then it cuts down on kids walking around. Like, it's just looking at simple changes. Maybe you've got all fluorescent lights on, but they've got great windows that are covered with curtains. Like, how about if we turn the lights off and open up and get some natural light? Let's see if that makes a difference. What if we play quiet music over the speaker? Will that help decrease the volume of the kids' voices? So little things like that. So there's a great sheet here that's, again, free. You can go on, print this off, spend some time in the cafeteria, talk to the staff that are in there, see what they're noticing, and make those notes before you come up with your plan. This is what I just said, I think. So the environmental analysis again. So looking at, when you're in there, looking at the social interactions, are the supervisors yelling? Are kids smiling? Are some kids sitting by themselves? Physical environment, like I talked about the trash cans, traffic flow, how long are kids waiting in the line, behavioral expectations, that kind of thing. So meeting with the stakeholders. So you might want to talk to the cafeteria supervisors, the food service personnel, the cleaning staff, the school security guards. There may be policies and procedures in place that you're not aware of. Like there might be reasons that certain things are happening that you might not be aware of. Like maybe like allergy tables need to be in a certain spot for a certain reason, or things like that. So talking to all these people can help you kind of get a feel for that environment and understand why things are the way they are, and maybe there's some things that could change. So kind of getting them to know that you're there to make their job easier and to make this a better environment for everybody. Getting started. So there's the orientation session information here on the website. So you would educate the cafeteria personnel about the program, invite the principal or anybody else who you want to come. You can use the PowerPoint, presentation that's available there to give them information on it. And then make sure that you have time for discussion to get their input too, and make sure that everybody's concerns are being heard and taken into consideration when you're running the program. So the lesson plans are all on here. If you, and when I did it, some people like to do it like 1 week at a time, just plan 1 week ahead at a time. But you could go on and like literally print absolutely everything off. That's really the only cost associated with running this program, is like printing the materials. So there's things like on day 1, they get a Comfortable Cafeteria bookmark. There's like posters to hang up. So sometimes printing costs can be an issue. I know schools, some schools have worked with like the PTA in their building to get a little bit of funding, um, or have them come in and help print everything off so that it can, put it into files and things so that each teacher can send it home with their kids. The day that we learn about healthy foods, when I did it, um, the schools were invested and wanted to help with it. So they paid for all of the like you'll see these platters of like different rainbow colored foods. But again, that would perhaps be a cost that wouldn't be, that's not something free on the website. If you wanted to do actual healthy food choices, you would probably want to make sure you had the funding to bring that food in. But other than that, most of the materials are on sorry, most of the materials are on the website right there. Okay, so week 1, that's our kickoff week. Let's get started. So the students learn about the expectations and the rules for a comfortable cafeteria. So like I mentioned before, there's posters that get hung up. There's coloring sheets for the first day. There's also bookmarks that they can color and they get to take them home. And then supervisors obtain resources on creating a positive environment and active supervision. So for each lesson, there's like the student lesson, and then there's like materials for the staff as well. So you can talk about the expectations in the classroom. So you can see, this is the coloring sheet here. You can see all of these things on here. It says time to enjoy a meal. It says eat healthy food, relax and refresh, take a break from schoolwork, help make lunchtime enjoyable for everybody, enjoy time with friends, talk about your day, listen to what others have to say, allow others to sit with you, care about those in need, and be a good friend, be responsible and respectful, clean up your eating area, report problems to adults, use an indoor voice, use good mealtime manners, chew with your mouth closed, use utensils correctly, say please and thank you. And then following directions, listen to cafeteria supervisors, stay in your seat while eating, walk to and from the cafeteria safely. And then this is the bookmark over here. We've done other things, like I added in this book that I found that talked about just kind of like, for our setting, what's expected and unexpected in the lunchroom, how to be, how to use good manners in that setting. And then this is what the supervisor handout looks like for week 1. So simple strategies for creating a comfortable cafeteria. And then active supervision at a glance, 6 strategies to keep children safe. So these are just some guidelines that were put together for cafeteria settings. So typically there should be 1 adult to every 50 students at a minimum. If you can have more than that, that's always great. So sometimes the assistant principal or principal in the cafeteria helps decrease some of those behavior issues or office referrals. Teachers who eat in the cafeteria get free lunch. That's one incentive that the buildings could offer. Another one that some buildings have used is the paraprofessionals. So that's like the school support staff. Anyone who helps in the cafeteria there can leave 20 minutes early. And then maybe having high school students or adult visitors come in and eat with students or volunteer. So just some strategies. Noise is always a common like challenge that a lot of people mention in the cafeterias because it is like their free time and there's a lot of kids that get pretty loud. So they have things like noise controlling cubes. So like right here, some places will use like voice choice charts. So students knowing, and then you can use, a lot of buildings use these kinds of things throughout the whole building. So they know like in the hallway, my voice needs to be a 1, in the cafeteria, it needs to be a 2, things like that. So there's some links there for ways to help control volume. Oh, some people, this is a chime. Some people will use like a soft chime, instead of like an air horn. It's just a little bit more pleasant. Week 2 is the friendship week. So it's time to talk about friendship and what makes a good friend. So students get to brainstorm of what makes a good friend, how to keep friends, and ways to make new friends. So when I did this week, I brought in like a big, like you see here, like a big board with paper on there, and I got the students involved and they helped me come up with ideas, and we wrote them up there, and then we hung it up in the cafeteria and kept it up there for the next week. And then supervisors during this week learn about this friendship stages, conversation starters, and tips for encouraging friendship. So here's some tips. This is a handout that's in there that you can pass out about making friends. So it says, wear a smile, say hello, introduce yourself, have a conversation, ask a question or two. It's easy, just be you. Week 3 is learning about enjoyable mealtime conversations. So again, you can, bring in the paper and have kids get involved and give you answers and write them up there and keep it up on the wall so that they can be reminded all week. Supervisors learn how to encourage positive mealtime conversation, and then students learn how to have a positive mealtime conversation. These are on the website. You can print them out. They're conversation starters, and the students would roll them in a group. So you want to have, I think, some tables in our setting are round tables in the cafeteria, and then some are like really long metal tables. So if it's a round table, I would say like 1 cube is good for a round table. If they're like those long rows, we did 1 cube for like every 4 or 5 students-ish. And I will say, if you're running it with like multiple lunches back to back, these sometimes get a little like smashed, or like food gets on them, a little gross. So it's always nice to have some extras on hand. But literally, again, all you need is just to print those out, and then you need a little piece of tape to secure them. And they make this cute little cube. You can see the picture here of the 2 girls looking at that together and answering the questions. For older kids, like sometimes they like, something a little bit more advanced than this. They might like would you rather questions. Like in one of our buildings, our intermediate buildings, so like 4th and 5th graders, someone on the whiteboard every day will write up either a would you rather or like a joke that they have to like try and guess the answer to. So those are some other ideas that you could use to just get kids talking. So you can provide conversation starters, be creative. These are some other good websites. So week 3 or 4, I think this was originally week 3, but I think when I did it, I flip-flopped it to 4. It's the meet a special guest. Hold on, let me see what 5. Okay, so week 3 is meet a special guest. So you kind of get them like excited to know, we're gonna have a special guest next week. Like think about some questions you might want to ask them. Special guest can be anybody really. I'm trying to think of the times we did it. The one time when we did it in the kindergarten building, we had the district dietitian come in, and they got to ask her questions about like, how do you choose the meals? Like, what do you do at your job? All those kinds of things. They can ask them, personal questions too, like, what's your favorite food, or things like that. The second year I did it, we had, so they have a school resource officer. She's a retired police officer that sits at the front. So the kids see her every time they walk in the building, but they didn't really know her that well. So we had her come in and be a special guest. So they got to ask her all kinds of questions and learn a little bit more about her. Other examples are the principal could come in, gym teacher, mayor, high school honor students. We did have the high school football players came in one time and helped out with one of the sessions, and the kids thought that was just like the coolest thing ever. I've seen examples of like inviting the superintendent to come and see what you're doing in your building and how it's making a positive change. So that's another way to kind of get them to see what OTs can do outside of that, just like fine motor box. That OTs can really do so much more. So you can kind of use the special guest week to your advantage if you want. But the kids really do like that week. And the guest always likes it as well. So I'm going to attempt to play this video. This is a video about what a principal has to say about the program. And this was run, this particular one was at a small charter school. So like not a big school, more of like a private school. And there were 100 students in the cafeteria. Sorry about that. Can you guys hear?
My name is Eric Fortuna. I'm the assistant principal at Parma Community Elementary School. We've started with the Comfortable Cafeteria program about 2 months ago. At our school we have 2 cafeterias that are smaller, more confined areas, and it gets a little chaotic in there, and so it worked out perfectly for us. I see them more in the classroom environment, which has been, of course, much more structured with the routines and procedures that the teachers have in place. And we wanted to kind of carry a little bit of that over into the cafeteria, not entirely, because I still think it's a time where they need to converse, enjoy themselves, and interact with each other in a way that's just not so chaotic and loud sometimes. So it's been great. I actually had the opportunity to go in as one of their guest speakers, which was a lot of fun for the kids as well, because it was a more laid-back environment where they were asking me some more questions about me personally. That was something that I really enjoyed, because getting in the cafeterias is not always the easiest for me throughout the day, so they got to see me in a different environment as well. So it's something that we're really excited to get started. It's helped the students interact more appropriately. They've been more positive about their conversations with one another. I would probably see more students for discipline reasons. And after the implementation of the program, I've had very few visits during our lunchtime. So clearly it's working. Students are taking it to heart. That means something to me, and it means something to them. You know, we have a character education program, which is sort of the cornerstone of our curriculum. So this is just another piece of that. So I think it'll be a great opportunity for our students to maybe act as leaders at home when they're sitting around the dinner table with maybe their younger or older siblings and their parents, so they can show them how they should be interacting with one another during that dinner time, which is so important.
Okay. I know we're a little crunched on time here, so I'm gonna try and get the rest of these weeks done quickly. So the week 4 is time to toss it up at your table, mix it up day. The students have an opportunity to use conversational skills that they used from previous sessions to engage in conversation with a new peer with the conversation cube, and they can start to form new friendships. So for this week, a lot of schools have kids, they sit in like assigned seats at lunchtime. So for this week, they mix it up and have them sit at a different spot. If it's a building where they don't have assigned seats, they just encourage kids to go sit with somebody you've never sat with before. Or if you wanted to, you could, when kids come in, like tell them like, go sit at a number 1 or a number 4, and then they have to sit, where that number is, so that they're sitting with different people. So the supervisors encourage making new friends and that no one sits alone. Week 5 is the sensory week. So understanding the smells, tastes, and sounds in the cafeteria. So giving them a little bit more of like self-awareness of all of those things around them, and like, do they like that? Do they not like that? Are the lights too bright for them? Do they prefer to eat in a quiet environment? So having them think about all of those things, and then supervisors learn the impact of sensory input on students' behavior. This is a handout I made for the 5 senses in the cafeteria. So just kind of having kids be more familiar with the sounds in the cafeteria, what you might see, and then knowing how to like modify things or make adaptations based on specific needs. We have one building that will turn the lights off and play quiet music. There's natural light, so they're not like sitting in the dark, but just turning down, or like if they have a lot of overhead lights, just turning off like one switch so it's not quite so bright. Sometimes that helps too. So just giving little strategies to see if it makes positive changes. Okay, week 6. That's technically the last week. And that's the healthy food choices week. And a lot of the groups will choose to do offering some kind of healthy foods that day. So students can have an opportunity to sample healthy fruits and veggies, talk about the importance of eating a variety of fruits and vegetables. Supervisors learn how to encourage healthy eating habits and positive social interaction. So, this was a plate that we did in, I think, the kindergarten building. We did like taste the rainbow. So we had a food of every different color of the rainbow. And then we would go around and offer, I will say, we worked with the school on knowing what foods were safe, like in terms of allergies. We had to make sure that every food we offered was not anything that anyone in the building had an allergy to. But we would go around and offer them like what they wanted to try. And we tried to use some things that were like unique. Like the one time we did purple cauliflower. The one dietitian got really creative and brought in like some really cool foods that the kids were really interested in because they'd never seen it before. And they really did accept it quite well. Like all the kids, I would say most of the kids were trying something, which was awesome. I don't know where this video is. Hold on, let me try here.
I learned that everyone has different feelings and different friends. That you have to be helpful and not to make fun of people, not bullying, and be yourself. Be kind to your friends. Stand up for them. Use good manners. Help other people.
The whole purpose of the Comfortable Cafeteria program is to create an atmosphere in which children enjoy their meals at school. An important part of my job was to educate the cafeteria supervisors about how to accomplish this. It was a school-wide approach, so children with and without disabilities participated in it.
Hi, I'm Dawn. I'm a cafeteria supervisor at Parma Community School.
Hi, I'm Debbie, and we've been working with the occupational therapist to provide and promote a comfortable cafeteria environment.
I think the program has increased normal conversation with the children. They like the intervention, and I think they look forward to it.
Yes, and I see the attempts from the kids to try new things and to scatter to different tables to make friends with the other children. I thought that was really great. I think it's helped me in the sense, outside of the children that we're working with the program, I will implement it in the other grades. I'm always trying to encourage them to try something new. Why don't you go sit with that friend over there? I see that there aren't too many people over there. Why don't you go sit with them? And then you can learn more about them. And so it's great for me to encourage them. This is what needs to be done.
Sometimes that's all they need is a little
Right.
encouragement. This is
Right.
their social time, and this is the time to make a difference.
Hi, my name is Ashley Raven. I'm the speech therapist here at Parma Community Elementary School. I had the opportunity to collaborate with the occupational therapist at our school in implementing this program. I've definitely seen a huge impact in the cafeteria. The students are excited to go to lunch. As the speech therapist, I found the most valuable part of this program was how it really fostered valuable conversation. So it really made them aware of appropriate things to talk about. Healthy conversations during mealtime is a life skill that you'll have to have forever. So explicitly teaching it during this program is such a valuable experience for these kids to have. Yeah, there were a few students on my caseload, and I had noticed a definite change in them from the beginning of the year until now. They're more comfortable sitting with their peers. They're having more conversations. They're more comfortable eating around their peers, and I've definitely seen an increase in these positive behaviors in some of my students.
Okay. And then, so the program's 6 weeks long, but some people have chosen to do a final 7th week and like a celebration, and the kids get a little certificate of completion, and have a little party or something like that. So that's another option that you could add in. As I mentioned earlier, these are flexible programs. You can adapt them, modify them to fit whatever setting you are in. You can do different grade levels. You can do small groups if you want to do like a lunch bunch. This is a little information on the Cool Cafe, which was designed for students in grades 5 through 8 if you want to run it in like a middle school. This is just a little brief information. Somebody did a lunch bunch group with some 4th grade students. and the targeted group was was on the OT caseload, and then there were also some at-risk students and some peer helpers. And then this is what it might look like in a smaller setting. You can also, if you're worried about how am I going to, I'm really busy with my caseload, how am I going to get this done? Sometimes people will utilize like level 1 OT students or level 2 students or practicum students to come in to help out with this. Some capstone students choose to do their project on Every Moment Counts or Comfortable Cafeteria, and that will be what they do. They go in and implement the program in a building. So if that's something that you feel like could help you, you could talk to a local university and see if there's students that might be able to help you implement it. This was just an example of some students that helped do that. And then questions. So I'm sorry, I know that was a lot of information. So I'm going to hold on. And then there is just so you know, there's a webinar with that does continuing education for all of these programs. If you wanted more information, that's on the website as well. And then if you wanted to reach out to Sue Basic directly, her email is here. And then the references and resources link is there. But does anyone have questions and answers? I'm going to stop sharing so that I can see everybody if anyone is on here.
Jenny, that was fantastic. We do not have any questions so far in the chat.
Okay.
But if anybody has any, you're free to ask now. Kelsey is going to put us into our breakout rooms, and the facilitators have some questions, but then Kelsey also has a question for you all.
Yeah, so before we go, while you guys are in the breakout rooms, if you pull up any of the resources on the website, it might help you. But maybe try to think of one activity you can do with the kids that relates to one of the weeks as well. And then there's always those questions too. If you don't get through all of them, it's okay. I know we have a short amount of time and usually don't get through all of them anyway. Okay, are we all back? I think so. Okay, so I know that was a really short amount of time to be able to talk about everything. Before we start, did anyone in any of the groups come up with an activity for one of the weeks? If anyone did, you can just shout it out or you can put it in the chat. Give you guys a minute. If not, we'll fly into the questions. Okay, we'll head into the questions and then we'll start with Shannon's group. Can you tell us a little bit about what you discussed for question 1?
Yes, so I had a virtual teacher in my group, so she said that she hasn't used like the cafeteria because she's not actually in the cafeteria. She works with homeschooled students, but she said that the resources and collaboration tools she found very useful, like the Calm Moments card. Someone said that they haven't used any of the resources, but working in mental health said that they could find it useful. And that was pretty much all we got it for the first one.
Okay. Does anyone have anything different for question 1? Does anyone have a setting that there's kind of like no mental health implementation there that you think you might be able to get anything in? And that can be either Aika's group, Atonis, or David's group. Oh, David, I think you're muted.
My group talked about working with caregivers and also working with families to help them develop better mental health, setting up peer support groups, allowing parents to share issues that would facilitate better mental health.
Very nice. Good. Mental health is one of those things that can be implemented, I think, in any single population. Let's go on to number 2 just for time. In your setting, are there potential natural environments where you can embed some of these strategies? Aika, did your group get there?
Yeah, my group got there, but they all said no because most of them are working in the hospital settings. And one of my group members was a student, so she couldn't answer because she did not yet practice it. So yeah.
Okay. Does anyone else have any natural environments they think that they might be able to embed mental health?
My group talked about embedding in OT schools, helping the students
Very
to
nice.
improve mental health.
Good. Okay. And
And
then,
in
sorry, keep
my
going.
group too, we talked about Eastern Kentucky University and the area around the campus where there are also schools, private schools and kindergartens where it could be applied.
Okay. And then, Antonis, did you get to question 3? Were there any environmental factors or any other factors that might limit or promote any of the participation in a mental health?
Oh, we talked about the anxiety during mostly the COVID-19 period where students were not allowed to interact. So a lot of them were eating at cars or separately. So this was a barrier, which cafeteria could help overcome this issue.
And I think everyone's still seeing some of the impacts too on the social skills from that. And then, does anyone have anything else for number 3 in any of the other groups?
My group talked about lack of resources and lack of involvement by other staff members, lack of buy-in by other staff members.
And then outside of the US, the last question can go open to anyone as well. Are there any ways you can see children or others that are not on your caseload? This is just a general question to see what it's like in other countries.
I'm sorry, excuse me. I didn't get the third question. I was driving, so maybe you can rephrase it, please.
Yeah, so whoops, let me pull up the things again. So in the US, if you see kids at school, sometimes you can also see in, like Jenny was saying, that natural environment in the cafeteria, you're going to see the other kids around. In any of your other settings, besides just maybe that one client that you're working with, is there any way you can bring in some other people?
In my setting, I'm looking at acute mental health setting, so I think I can bring it in during meal times. I think I mentioned that in my group. I can promote positive mental health interactions, especially within the male adult inpatient ward, because I suggested that most males would rather keep to themselves and not promote positive interactions rather than all like the female ward. So I think we can promote that where I work.
Okay, we are just a little bit over time.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming. We really appreciate it. I will send out the recording sometime next week. Jenny, thank you so much again. Jenny's PowerPoint is on OT Echo if you want to revisit it as well with her email. We're meeting January 11th for our next meeting, and Dr. Quinn Tominski is presenting on activity card sort, advancing inclusive participation. So those of you working in adults in mental health settings, hopefully you'll find that very useful. So good. Yay! Have a great month, everyone, and thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Merry Christmas.
Holidays.
Thank you. Happy holidays.